welcome to our next session, Track and Trace, a journey from life science to battery and digital product passports. Welcome on the stage, Nadine Kania, Solution Head of SAP Industry Network for Automotive, inclusive Catena X and Sustainability Portfolio for Automotive at SAP. Herman Herter, Solution Design Lead SAP S4HANA for Manufacturing and Track and Trace Buyer. And my good colleague, Harry Schiff, Global Head of Track and Trace for Capgemini. Welcome, guys. It's good to have you. Track and Trace, that's the first thing I have in my mind when we started. What is coming actually firstly to my head? You know, a few weeks ago, my mom sent me a package from Poland, my beloved coffee, you know. Once you are a kid, you're always a kid, doesn't matter how old you are. 1,000 kilometers, and it was 5 weeks on the way. I was so lucky that I was able to track and trace the package, so I knew that it will come, it's somewhere in the world. Does it mean the same for you guys, or how do you think? So what Track and Trace is, we will listen from our experts. So maybe, who wants to start?
I can start. So, of course, I could now give an explanation about the next 2 hours, but in a minimalistic explanation. Track and trace is the determination of an item, so the past and the current location of a unique item or a property, and to make it visible over the supply chain for all supply chain participants at any time. In general, track and trace is, in most of the cases, quite complex because you need, on the one hand, to deal with the business requirements as well as technical requirements, and most important, also for the legal requirements.
Okay, maybe lady?
Yeah, sure. Happy to add that for sure. Also, like Harry explained, traceability and track and trace is for us key to overcome disruption supply chains, what we have. And what we especially see there is that it's nothing that one company can work alone on, but we have to collaborate, where we do, especially also in industry networks like Catena X, for example.
Herman, I realized that for life science, it's extremely important.
I mean, the term track and trace is a little bit overloaded, so this is always important to ask the people, okay, what is your understanding of track and trace? I think the general description given by Harry is pretty good. So generic, it's about we want to know what is, where, when, and what happened to it.
Good. Okay, but life science, right? One industry. So how can other industries actually benefit from track and trace and that's the whole solution? And what are the key challenges? Are there any? Harry?
Yeah. Of course, in general, the life science sector is quite complex because it's not just about an IT solution, it's about patient safety. And therefore, we see similar requirements to fulfill this legal requirements also in other sectors. This will, for example, be legally required for the automotive sector with the introduction of the battery passport in February 2027. But also in further industries, we see a rising demand with the introduction of track and trace solutions, like with the digital product passport. We see a rising demand for sustainable supply chain transparency solution, and with this additional legal requirements are at the moment coming up on the horizon.
Okay. Herman, anything to add?
I mean, you have, of course, the legal stuff, and this is an obvious also for life science and a must-have, so a license to operate. That's why it's always challenging, also from the timelines. I mean, you know the topic quite well. So changing of legal requirements quite often, or sometimes popping up. What's also very important for track and trace is not only the technology side. When talking about what kind of solutions are available, I mean, we're talking about a journey about like 15 years with the first track and trace implementations we got. Is the supply chain, so what did you find in the supply chain and your partners? What kind of solution do they have? Because there were nearly no standards at the beginning. And one of the most important things within the company is it's not a technology thing, but also from the business processes.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, you have to think about what does track and trace mean in my business processes, in the shop floor, for procurement, for master data. So this is an overarching topic touching nearly everything in the company.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe just to add what Harry said already, we for sure have a lot of experiences working here together and collaborating in the area of life science. Now we see similar requirements coming also for the automotive industry, where we for sure also take these learnings what we have and try to transfer then also for other industries to learn here. And like you said, track and trace, it's really the holistic end-to-end process where we have to look on the one thing, what kind of data is available in the one company, but where do I need also further information coming from my suppliers in order to fulfill the tsunami of upcoming regulations what we have. And therefore, traceability is definitely one enabler that we can fulfill those.
Wow, guys, I have you all three of you here on the stage, so I just have to ask about the long-lasting collaboration between Capgemini, SAP, and of course Bayer. So how was the journey in your eyes? How did collaboration started? How is it going? Maybe we'll start with Bayer.
I can start from customer perspective. I mean, Bayer and SAP have a long-term relationship since 2000 something when we started the first ERP project. For track and trace, it's a little bit, let's say, around 2010 when we first implemented SAP Auto ID infrastructure in the object event repository. And then around 2014, we were reaching out to SAP saying, guys, your products are not performing as we would wish like them to do because they were not able to, let's say, manage the amount of data coming in. And then we start discussing with SAP, and then together with other peers, we were able to convince SAP to go on a co-innovation. And this was, let's say, the birth hour of the advanced track and trace for pharmaceuticals, which turned out in product around 2016. And I have to say, pretty impressed how this turned out in 1.5 years. Completely new product, and as side product, we also had then the Pharma Network for supply chain integration, which is not now the information collaboration hub. So, everlasting, long-lasting story with SAP. It's good, I think, yeah. With Capgemini, the journey was a little bit later. Yeah. So around 2016, 17, something like this, when we had to, let's say, transform our businesses and had to outsource some of our resources, unfortunately. Exactly. I think we had a good learning at the beginning, so we had the up and downs, but also with SAP, we have a very good collaboration between the parties, and I think this is tremendous important. If you want to pull something so big, you need the partners, otherwise it would not work.
Absolutely. So maybe first of all, I have to say thank you, Hermann, because your statement wasn't aligned beforehand. So thanks for the positive feedback. But actually, yeah, sure, that's the best what we can have from an SAP perspective. Working close together with the customer and the partner, getting the requirements for an upcoming new solution directly also from the customer to ensure that it fits the needs, and then having with you a partner by our side that we can also then in the implementation enable those.
Exactly. For us at Capgemini, it's important. We see a huge transformation, and we want to guarantee that Bayer will stay forehead, because Bayer is for the track and trace sector a forerunner. And we need to deal with a quite complex system. In the past, it was really highly customized, so bringing it back to the standard, preparing it for the future requirements, and also while dealing with a huge amount of data, which was at the beginning of the track and trace journey, not foreseen that we would, after a few months, already have the amount of data available on track and trace as we see it on the ERP system with just one target country, for example.
Okay, so triangle model works. Okay, so guys, we mentioned battery pass here. If I think of markets, how fast they grow, the legal requirements. Why is the battery pass actually the biggest challenge right now in the track and trace solution and in coming years?
Yeah, so maybe it's not only the battery pass, but let's talk also about digital product passports. So we see here that we have a lot of requirements on a global reach, which we have to fulfill. So especially also now in automotive industry, they might differ all a little bit in China or in the US. The European battery passport is the one which is currently here driving us for sure very much, where you have to report if you are from a manufacturer side, if you want to sell your EV here in Europe, and a digital battery passport. This is for each EV which has the battery inside, which is larger than 2.5 kilowatt per hour. And you need to be both on the one side, you need to have a customer-facing interface where you have a QR code on the battery. And I'm not sure how many EV drivers we have here in the audience, but you would then be able to scan the QR code and see, for example, information like the battery health status of your battery. So it's also a lot of field data, what is required during the usage phase of the car. On the other side, there's also a B2B QR code you need to scan, where you get also all the other information about the consistency of the battery, the PCF carbon footprint, for example, of the battery, which means all the consolidated parts which are inside. So it's a mass of data. And Harry, you mentioned the full process, which we have to cover. And also here we need to really cover from the design phase over the production phase to the usage phase, this big amount of data and collect it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Exactly. So what we are doing at the moment with the SAP together, both of us also checked what is needed for the battery pass and also later on what is needed for a digital product pass. A lot of data points are needed, and therefore we check both on our sides which systems do we have already today, and does this tackle all the data points needed to fulfill the legal requirements. And then we figured out there is a small delta, but for companies using SAP, most of the data points needed are already existing, and therefore this data can be easily brought in shape so that we fulfill the requirements. On the other hand, we also see, of course, that with this new requirements, it is important especially for the bigger companies, not just fulfill or provide the platform for the legal reporting, but it's also important to think that most of the data, or many data, needs to be provided by supply chain partners. And therefore, a good consulting partner is needed, like Capgemini, who's seeing the big picture and think about everything what is needed so that in the end, the big companies are able to provide all the data for the battery pass or digital product pass in the future.
And maybe to add what Harry just said, so just developing a battery pass viewer wouldn't be the big challenge, but really where we come into the game and what's the home turf for us is actually where is the data stored, also in the different systems, because over 80% of the data is already stored in SAP system, and that is where we then came together in order to find an easy solution for our customers with all the experience what we have from the past for the automotive industry to bring these data points here together then. So that's like the typical iceberg picture you have in mind. The viewer is just on top, but the question is really where's the data in the backend systems.
Okay. Eddie? Yeah?
Totally fine, yeah.
So it is fascinating how, the complex process you actually described right now, but it sounds so easy. Because time is running. Guys, just quick, if you could summarize in really 1 or 2 sentences, what would you recommend to other companies, industries who need to implement track and trace? How can Capgemini, of course, support it as well? But like a short summary.
Should I start?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's say if it's just only two advices, I would go for, first of all, use the knowledge which is already there. So as we have learned, we have now companies on vendor side or consulting side like Capgemini or other consulting companies who have experience with track and trace in general. Even if battery pass is something different than tracking and tracing for pharmaceutical products, at least there's a basis to build on. Same applies to technology. So use this to get a jump start. And the second most important thing is collaborate with your vendors, suppliers, but even with your peers. So the more you talk in your own area with other peers, like what are the challenges we are facing, and then discuss it with the suppliers and so on, the higher is the probability that you will build a standard solution which can be used within the market. Because honestly, the most pain we had in the track and trace for pharmaceutical was that everybody just started to build something, and then it was totally chaotic because the easiest thing, like exchanging messages, was tremendous work because everybody has just tiny little pieces different, and then, yeah, efforts go skyrocketing.
Thank you.
So for from an automotive perspective, I just can say traceability is really the foundation for upcoming regulations like the battery pass, but also for topics like quality management. And so here we really say also if you collaborate in the networks like with Catena, set the basis for you as a company so that you are prepared also for all the other challenges here. And for sure we are here, the use cases are ready and support here our customers.
I also think that many solutions we have at the moment for the pharmacy industry or life science can be easily adapted for the battery pass and also for the digital product pass requirements we see in the future. And therefore, we see the big picture and we see the solution. The important part for track and trace is really, it's like with fitness and health. If you lose it, this will directly become your most critical topic to handle. And therefore, we as Capgemini are happy to support our partners and customers to find the best possible solution.
Hey, guys, next time I will go to pharmacy and buy aspirin. I will think that it's not so easy like my mom is thinking. You go, you order in manufacturing plant, then it goes somewhere. And before in manufacturing plant, you have to order all ingredients. And you guys do amazing job. So thank you, guys. Yeah, I learned a lot. That's why I love Hannover Fair. So guys, let's go. Let's watch a new slot. And of course, we're still here. So if you are having some additional questions and you were too shy to ask them here in big audience, of course you can ask. We're going to stay here, look for us. And watch the space. In the future, we plan some events to share more details even, because 20 minutes is, of course, not enough time. And enjoy the fair. Thank you, guys, for joining.
Thank you.